Hello and welcome. So I gotta admit, Vorago is, when they say an epic boss, I think they've actually put the effort to making it epic. Now, like the last previous major boss, like the Fight King, that was, in my opinion, not that really big of a boss. It was more of a tank fest. He does a lot of damage. He has a lot of HP, and that's about it. He does certain attack cycles, and there wasn't much beyond that. Whereas with Vorago, there's like five. Okay, a lot of Vorago's attacks are reused, but then you go through like 5 different sections where each time he gets a new attack, and there's just... When you compare Vorago to Fight King, Vorago clearly has a lot more going for him. So I found that really, really interesting. That mostly because there's a lot more to learn, whereas Fight King, after the first day, it was like pretty much... there's not much more to learn. Also, I wonder what they're going to change. It's probably nothing major, like they make changes every week, and there's, I don't remember how many changes they were going to do, but it just kind of mixes it up a little bit. The only off-putting thing about Vorago for me so far is there are 2 phases where it just doesn't matter what you do as long as you survive it. There's like the second phase where no matter how much damage you do, it's going to take around 6 minutes. Just because you got to survive, I think it was 6 cycles total, and then you can finally actually kill him because that's when the weapon piece dislodges. This is also true for phase 4, where you got to wait through, I think it was 2 or 3 waterfalls, and then you could kill him. So I guess this is good in the sense that masses don't necessarily have it better off. Masses will still have to wait the whole... It's 6 minutes for this... Around 6 minutes for the second phase. Around 3 or 4 minutes for the fourth phase. And the only thing they have going for them is speeding through the first, third, and last phase. At the minimum, take around 10 minutes to finish. Even for a mass. Because of you just have to wait through the cycles. So... that's kind of a good and bad thing. It's kind of bad for larger teams who just want to grind out some kills, but it's also good because it doesn't necessarily mean that having masses are good. Because masses are generally used for people who don't necessarily know how to kill the boss, where they're just going to brute force it through and just kill it. Which is kind of interesting because I think... Vorago has this reflectability, where he reflects all damage he takes, and I gotta admit, if people didn't know about the reflectability on the first day, people probably got one shot every time it went to that part of his cycle. And that's kind of the downside of masses. You're gonna get killed by your own team until people figure it out. Alright, I forgot, the first phase also takes a minimum of 40 seconds because that's how long it takes for you to get onto the ledge and go all the way up through the obstacles and jump onto his back, which, well, you get the weapon piece and then you can finally kill him. And until you do that, he's just going to keep on healing, so damage doesn't really matter until you get the weapon piece off. So, I said there were 2 phases where damage just doesn't matter. So during those 2 phases, what I've been doing lately is just sit around and just keep a shield on. Like, if you're low HP, you can just run into somebody and heal from their blue ball, which usually heals around 3200. That's like a decent number if you're not praying mage. Actually, I'm not even sure praying mage helps, because they usually hit really high regardless. So, a thing I really found interesting about this boss is that they put in something new that hasn't been done before. Or hasn't been done. Like, the boss drops 5 drops at once. I can't remember outside of Double Loot Weekend where it did something like that. Maybe I'm forgetting a boss. If there was one, kind of remind me if there was. But so there was, it drops 5 drops at once. Hopefully, I haven't seen like a double drop yet, but hopefully this means that you can get like 5 seismic singularities in one drop. That'd be pretty cool to get like a picture of. Then there was how the drops are divided. On the homepage, it said that it's divided between whoever did the most damage and whoever took the most damage. So this is good for people who don't have overload, who don't have turmoil. You could just go in as a tank because of the 2 phases where it just doesn't matter how much damage you do because it's time-based. there are only 3 phases where it matters. So, like, say if you're trying to make 5 bill and you don't necessarily have all the good items in the game, you could just go in as the ranged tank, take most of the damage. You're gonna waste a lot of rock tails, but at least you're still able to do your part and get a kill in free-for-all, which is what I did here. If you haven't noticed already, I'm wearing a MeleeScape. I don't have a completionist cape. That's because there was that thing. There was charm sprites or whatever. They redid charm sprites and put it charm sprites? Something like that? I don't know. I just don't find... I don't feel the need to actually go from a MeleeScape to a completionist cape because of the changes they did with the EOC. Then there's... I'm also wearing Barrel's Glove and Dragon Boots. It's not keepsake. It's kind of odd. People kept asking me if it was or was not. I don't see the problem with Dragon Boots ever since the only difference is defense, and since I'm able to make it through the boss without really having to worry about food, I don't see the problem. And it still kind of bugs me that if you're meleeing, if you're mostly getting meleeed and you're not getting hit by mage, then it's probably better to use like Rage Fire boots because it's a mage boot, which offers really good melee defense. I still find that, but that's me. I'm still a little disappointed that this boss drops level 90 mage weapons. I kind of wish that instead of Calpha King dropping the Drygores, I kind of wish that this boss dropped the Drygores, because this is the actual boss. I don't see Calpha King as a real boss, but the only reason I wish this boss dropped the melee weapons instead of mage weapons is because melee has much better abilities. Mage it's poorly supported. Range has it better off. The only thing going for mage right now is that actually, I think they changed it, but the only good thing about Mage is it has AoE spells. It has barrage spells, which hits multi-targets, which... Actually, I think they nerfed that a while ago, where they changed how momentum and multi-target spells work, but... yeah, that was the only good thing going for Mage. I really don't see why people would buy... the 90 mage weapons, because honestly there isn't that much things that you're gonna mage if you're using abilities. If you're not, you're using momentum with like multi-target spells, but that's the only good thing about mage, multi-target spells. Okay, so aside from it dropping mage weapons rather than melee weapons, aside from mage not having the support... Oh, actually, it's kind of interesting because player versus monster, it doesn't really matter if you're maging or meleeing, but in PvP, there are people who do PvP. You could argue that there's a small difference between being able to attack your target from afar than being up close. But okay, aside from all that negative stuff, this boss is pretty nice. I wouldn't say... Okay, it's probably on par with Nex, with how much fun I had with doing Nex on release and how much fun I'm having with Vorago right now. It's a pretty nice boss. So what did you guys think about this boss? Like, I thought it was really cool that there's kind of leeway between people who have like Drygores and between people who don't. Where phase 2 and 4, no matter how much damage you do, it's not going to matter because it's time based. So there's that difference where it kind of sucks for the higher level players, but it's good for lower level players. Oh, interestingly enough, I can't remember which week it was, they nerfed Champion Tackle Box, right? Like, okay, so I think this was... Damn it, I can't remember if it was 6 weeks or a year after EOC was released, but I kind of had this time where it was like, okay, I saw how Champion Tackle Box was in the beta. I saw that it was clearly overpowered because you're basically getting an extra pack-act. I saw that 6 months at the least has passed. So clearly, it's going to stay in the game if it's been 6 months, because it's such a small change. So I start doing it, it takes like it was either 3 or 4 months. 3 or 4 months. I get 2 months done, I'm a couple weeks off, and they nerf it. Like, what the hell? It's kind of good and bad thing. Good thing is, it got nerfed. Finally, like... Bad thing is, I kind of went and did it even though I'm already 99 fishing, and they nerf it. It's useless. It's only good for fishing. Which is how it should have been. But yeah, pretty nice boss. I think this is one of... like Calpha King. Calpha King wasn't complex enough for me to want to do a guide on it. More, it was that... it was a pretty small boss that one short video could probably cover it. But with Vorago, I could probably make a short guide on like a quick here's what you should know, and then I can make a much longer in-depth guide of here's what you should know, here's why, here's how you should deal with it, and all that stuff. And actually for me, Vorago is, I think it kind of reminds me of the Fight Kiln guide I did, because the Fight Kiln was like, it was predictable. Everything was predictable of what happens. It was predictable of where it spawns. So I could accurately say you should be here, you should be there, you should be doing this. And I kind of feel like Vorago is the same. He has a very specific attack cycle, and everything he does is highly predictable, which is really good if you're making a guide on him, because being predictable makes it a lot easier to, like, you could tell people to do this because you know he's going to do that. Whereas, like, say, Fight King. Fight King is a little more random. He isn't as predictable, and that's kind of hard to make a guide on because you have to teach people to think on their feet, which is a lot harder to do. So this video probably dragged on a little longer than I expect. So tell me what you think about this boss. I really like this boss. Really nice. I have no idea how to end this video.